welcome along to episode 8 of the Albanach Knitter podcast. My name is Andrew, and I'm here on the Isle of Arran off the west coast of Scotland, where we are enjoying several weeks of beautiful, hot and sunny weather. I'm actually sitting inside, although, I'm next to our balcony, which has a fantastic view over the surrounding hills and then down into Lamlash Bay. Really spoiled, but it's been a beautiful few weeks. A bit too hot for me. And don't get me started, I know that some of you guys live in really hot climates, but here 25, 26, 27 degrees Celsius is pretty hot, especially for big burly Scotsmen like me. But it's great to be back with this episode, and during this episode I'm going to bring you up to date with what I've been knitting on. As well as that, I'm going to take you up to the beautiful little spot up in Lochranza in the northeast of the island, as well as taking you to a special craft day that recently took place at the Arran Heritage Museum. So that's what we've got in store. Let's get on with it. Well, I have to say, there hasn't been a huge amount of knitting getting done in the last little while. Life has got busy, as life tends to be, and with the summer being here, especially some nice weather, been out and about quite a bit, and work-wise, again in the summer things are getting a little bit busy up at Sannox, where we have a lot more guests typically in the summer, but just great to be out and about, meeting people and enjoying nice lunch here and there and being out and about just doing the stuff. But I have been doing some knitting, and the first thing to give you an update on, you remember I started using this Rowan felted tweed with the colourway Specs by Kay Fassett. I have had this in my stock for a while. I started on a design by Meg at No Frills Knitting, the Swiss Army scarf, which I don't think is available anymore, sadly, but it's basically a big triangle thing. And I've made some progress on this, but not very much. It's certainly bigger than a pair of woolly underpants now, so it doesn't pass as that, but I am making progress with it. As you can see, there's yarn overs down the middle to give an increase down the centre, and there's some little yarn overs at the end there, which give it a nice edging. As you see, I'm knitting it on larger needles. That's the recommendation. So it gives it quite a light and airy, almost lace-like, but of course it's just stockinette. When it's together, you can't necessarily see through it the same. So you can see those colours coming through. It's quite nice. This is not for anyone in particular. It's just something I fancied doing. But as you can see, I went a bit wrong. I went a bit wrong there. I was doing a few rows. I was at my mother's, I think, and I was doing a few rows of knitting, and obviously got my yarn overs in the wrong place. So now I have a very nice design feature there. And we'll see. I might try and fix it. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's the Swiss Army scarf that I'm doing, and that'll be for whoever. But as well as that, if you watched my little live video a few weeks ago, that's where I launched the big charity Beanie Along. And the idea is that I encourage you good folks to get knitting some beanies through the summer. It just so happens that in the last few years, when I've been on holiday or just been out and about doing stuff, and I'm taking knitting with me, I tend to pick a small project that I can take, put in a small bag, but also something that's not sort of covering you with wool while you're enjoying the warm weather. So I thought it'd be great to do a little bit of a knit along, a beanie along, and involve you good folks. And so I've been knitting some beanies. And so I've got this one here, which is quite nice. I may have showed you on the live video as well. And this is knitted by with the pattern that is in the instructions for the Beanie Along, which I'll put down below. It's at my Ko-fi.com website, and you can go there and you can download for free the instructions about being part of the Beanie Along, as well as a free beanie pattern. And the pattern is again by Meg at No Frills Knitting. And so there's another one that I've done. This one's got a pom-pom on it, and there we are. my custom, little mistake, design feature again. So I've done a couple of beanies, and I have got another one in blue on the needles. I've been doing it using magic loop. That's my preferred method for doing stuff in the round where I can possibly do it. I've tried to do stuff before with using needles that are the exact same length as the project you're working on, but I never quite got on with it. And as for double pointed needles, just no. So I've got my magic loop, and these are really, really easy to knit up. This is like good, proper television knitting, or in the car knitting, or in the cafe, or wherever it is. So that one I would say is probably about half done. It's got another seam to go again, and then it turns up at the bottom. So I don't know how many of those beanies I'll get made, but certainly I remember maybe 2 summers ago, I managed to get about 7 or 8 done in a fortnight when I was away on holiday. So those are my beanies. I do have so much wool lying around, which will be ideal to be making beanies for. And I've got this massive big ball left over from a cardigan project that I did for myself a little while back. So I'm putting that into use. This is it's just an acrylic yarn. It's got a 25% wool content in it. But this is from a shop we have here in the UK called Hobbycraft. So it's just a mass-produced sort of stuff, but it's quite good. It's in partnership with the Women's Institute, which is one of those ladies' organisations here in the UK where women go and make jam and all that sort of stuff. All the instructions for the Beanie Along, if you want to take part, please do go to my coffee website, download the free instructions, and there's a pattern in there for you. And then when you've made a beanie to any pattern whatsoever, please post it on YouTube or post it on Instagram using the hashtag BeanieAlong2023. And the idea is that the Beanie Along will go from the beginning of June through to the end of August, and then towards the end of August I'm going to publish a list of centres all around the world, as far as I possibly can, where you can send your beanies. These are mainly Salvation Army centres, and they will have use of those beanies as we come into the winter, autumn and winter months. So that's why I'm encouraging you to do them in the autumn, in the summer, so that they're ready for the autumn and they can be distributed for those that would really appreciate them. Now, they'll mainly be going to folks who are homeless, although some will be going to projects that work with the elderly. But because of that, I would encourage you to use yarn which is easy to wash and to care for, and perhaps some yarn that's maybe in some more muted or darker colours. Often folks who are on the streets don't necessarily want to draw a huge amount of attention to themselves. So just bear that in mind as you're knitting your beanies. And I say, keep an eye out for those addresses that will come up towards the end of August. And then those folks are primed to receive your gifts. And hopefully we'll be able to get some footage of some of those being distributed so you can see how those are being utilised. So thank you so much for being willing to be a part of that. If you are, if you're not, it's entirely fine, but just wanted to give us an opportunity to do something exciting together. So there's apart from the couple of hats that I've managed to finish, there's no other finished objects or works in progress at the moment. Apart from, I had a few little moments and I was thinking I need to do something different, just something entirely different. And I've been watching Martin at the Knit 365 vlog, or whatever he calls it. Sorry, Martin, I can't remember off the top of my head. And he's a huge Toft fan. Toft are a company here in the UK, and they do lots of patterns and their own yarns, etc. But mainly they specialise in amigurumi and lots of lovely little creatures, bunnies and everything, every creature you can imagine, they've got a pattern for. And recently, a diddless little guy, isn't he? Isn't he so cute? He's a little rabbit. I mean, he looks on some days he looks like a little dog, but he is actually a little rabbit, and I think he's quite cute. He's already been eyed up by my youngest daughter. And so I think he may end up going to her. She has a bigger version. This is from a book of patterns which has mini animals, a mini menagerie or something it's called. I'll put the details somewhere, but that's where he comes from. So he was just I've got some time and I haven't done anything fresh with knitting or crochet for such a long time. So he just popped up. Isn't it fun? So he'll just sit there for the rest of the podcast and behave himself. So that's what I've been getting up to. Now, in terms of plans for the future, I do have some. I've been thinking, well, what can I do? And a few months ago, I downloaded from Stephen West the pattern for his Dustland sweater. I've already done a Dustland hat, and I've got a Dustland big scarfy shawl thing, but I definitely fancy trying to do something for me that will fit, because as I've mentioned before, every time I've tried to do something for myself, it just has been far too big. I've obviously got this thing in my head where I think I'm a really, really huge guy, but all the stuff that I knit, when I put it on, it's just mahoosive, absolutely mahoosive, absolutely no good. So I'm going to take meticulous care in producing this Dustland sweater for myself. The benefit of the Dustland sweater is it's yoke down, so it starts obviously around the neck. So I should be able to have a sense when I'm doing it of what the sizing is like on me. I am fairly broad around the shoulders, and I'm fairly broad around the middle because I'm 95% made of scone and jam, you see. So there's a lot to cover, but obviously not as much as I think. So that's the next project. What I need to decide now is what kind of wool or what kind of yarn I'm going to knit it in. I don't think I've got enough in my stash that would create a whole garment for me, so I may have to go yarn shopping. Or if I'm really creative, I could cobble something together and like change colours, but that might be a step too far. At the end of the day, it has to be something that I'll actually wear. And as you can probably tell, when it comes to clothing, my tastes are pretty minimal. I actually have 5 of these shirts and I just change them round all the week. You know, once I see something I like, I just buy them in a whole bulk and just get them on there. So in knitting something, if I'm going to wear it, it'll have to be something that I'm fairly content to be seen in day to day. So, but anyway, that's what I'm going to do. The Dustland sweater by Stephen West. I've got the pattern downloaded. I'm starting to study it, and I just need to now look at the yarn and see what happens. Well, first of all today, I want to take you on a little trip up to Lochranza. It's in the northeast of the island. It's a beautiful, I mean, Arran is beautiful everywhere, but Lochranza is especially beautiful. As you go further north in Arran, the landscape becomes more and more highland, because the highland geological fault goes right through the north of the island. So the north is very much highland, and the south is soft rolling hills and all that sort of thing. So it'd be lovely to take you up there to Lochranza, where we'll see the castle, we'll see the Lochranza itself, and I'll show you around the beautiful little church. I hope you enjoy this. Well, it's wonderful to be able to bring you up here to Lochranza, undoubtedly one of the most beautiful places on Arran. As you can see, we've got the castle behind here. It was built in the 1200s by the McSween family, but it was then passed on to the Royal Stuarts, and it was a hunting ground for Robert II. I apologise for the wind, you probably can't hear me, because although it's a beautiful day, there is a little bit of a wind, because we're right by the sea. If I just turn you around, you'll see that the castle sits on this beautiful sea loch. This is Lochranza. It heads out into the Cobrannon Sound, which connects us to the wide open seas. So as you can see, it's just a beautiful, beautiful spot with some lovely weather today. Beautiful little village just nested on the shore here. You can come here and get a ferry over to the mainland on a quick, short trip, but it's a nice spot. Can't actually get into the castle at the moment and the gates are closed. It's run by Heritage Scotland, who have just done a lot of work to renovate bits that were falling down to try and preserve this beautiful place. But it's still not too bad considering it's been here for a long time. You see the stairs there going up into the tower, and one of the main rooms through there. This is an 18th century entrance just by the floor here. Of course, I made the fatal mistake of not wearing my sun hat, and the second fatal mistake was wearing shorts because the beasties are biting my legs. Just nestled under the hills here, where you can often see eagles soaring above the heights, is a lovely little Lochranza church and churchyard. And it's a beautiful location here in the main part of the village of Lochranza, just a little bit away from the loch. As church spaces go, this is one of the prettiest, I think, in Arran, and it's very much got that local feel. It's got a very sort of Scottish Presbyterian feel, don't get me wrong, but there's lots of beautiful things which give colour and interest in this building. Beautiful stained windows, Celtic cross there, and a maritime flavour to the window in the centre. Your typical biblical scenes. And Church of Scotland buildings tend to be very simple from a Presbyterian background, a root of being very sort of word-centred and nothing particularly fancy, and that really shows itself in this beautiful building. This is one of the congregations that will remain open as part of the revisions that are taking place, which is possibly a good choice. It's a beautiful place. Gets pretty cold in the winter though, not having that problem very much today. Arran has particular associations with St. Bridget, and here she is being carried by angels over these islands and lands. The chapel up behind my house is known as Kilbride, the Church of Bridget, and this painting here is a work by John Duncan of the Royal Academy. So there we have it. That was the beautiful Lochranza, that beautiful little church. It's so nice and peaceful and cool inside. I was quite glad to get out of the blazing sunshine and the biting beasties to enjoy a few moments filming in there. And then that beautiful castle, so iconic, sitting out on that spit into Lochranza itself. What you couldn't see around it is when the tide's in, each side of the loch around the castle fills up, and it's really totally idyllic. And in the evening, especially, you get some deer coming down off the hills, and occasionally you get some sheep wandering around as well. So it's a really beautiful, majestic, mystical, wonderful spot. I really, really love it. And that castle, it's only recently been sold and taken care of by Historic Scotland. It used to belong to the local nobility, and it was sold some years ago as they started to find it a little bit difficult to keep all their castles on the island. But anyway, that was Lochranza. As I've said to you before, the Isle of Arran, especially in the summer months, just starts to fill up with lots of wonderful events, and I'm hoping that over the summer months I'll be able to show you a few of those. But recently, just last Sunday, there was a lovely little event that took place up at the Arran Heritage Museum in Brodick, just along the road from where my church meets. So after church on Sunday, we went along as a family to the Arran Heritage Museum, where they had some local craftspeople there just showing their skills and their art, and there's a little bit of music thrown in too from local folk musicians and from the Arran Pipe Band. So let's take you over there to the Heritage Museum and show you around everything that was happening there. Hi there, we're at the Arran Heritage Museum today, and there's a lovely craft fair and all sorts of things going on. Delightful to show you around. Hello there, you alright? Is this all your work? This all your
These
work?
two are Susan's. She's
Oh,
in
wow.
the Beanie, but the rest is mine, yeah.
Amazing.
It's done over a number of years.
Yeah. Oh, it's really beautiful. So much detail.
It's relaxing.
hope you enjoyed that little trip to the Heritage Museum, and I hope you enjoyed the music. I stood for ages just listening to the folk musicians. They were there for a good while before the pipe band came along. There's quite a few folks in the pipe band that I know well. Two of them are part of my congregation, and as I put in the notes there, the oldest chap playing bagpipes there is 96, although you would never imagine that he was anything near 96, and still playing bagpipes and still as sprightly as the day he turned 70. So that was our local pipe band, and I hope you enjoyed seeing some of those lovely craft folks. Now, as I said before, there's quite a few folks on the island who are involved in all sorts of fibre arts, and what I'm trying to do now is try and pin them down so that I can get them on the podcast doing a little bit of an interview. So I'm hoping that in the next few podcasts there will be an opportunity to meet some of those lovely people and to see some of the stuff that they are doing there. I'm also just arranging to have a longer chat with someone I met at the Scottish Yarn Producers Showcase in Perth a few months ago, and so hoping to get a few interviews in there as well to add a bit of variety to the show rather than just sitting and listening to me. Well, it's almost time to go now, but I know you'll be waiting for one more thing, and it is your Gaelic lesson for the day. Now, it's one thing to know some of the practicalities of a language, but as you know, language is full of idioms, things that you want to be able to say so that you can maybe sound a little bit like a local. So I thought it was time to give you a little bit of a pithy saying in Gaelic, and it's this: Ha gulyor coma riculum. Ha gulyor coma riculum. Ha gulyor coma riculum. And that basically means enough is as good as a feast. Enough is as good as a feast. You know, that extra bite of scone is probably too much extra. Ha gulyor coma riculum. Ha gulyor coma riculum. Now, just an interesting point on those Gaelic words, gulyor, which is enough. That is where the English word galore means. Galore. It comes from the Gaelic gulyor. So there you go. It's not just Gaelic that borrows words from English, and they do that a lot. But English have even borrowed a good Gaelic phrase and integrated it into language. So the phrase was Ha gulyor coma riculum. Ha gulyor coma riculum. And on that note, you really have had enough of me today, and I hope it's been something of a feast for you. I look forward to seeing you next time, but thanks for joining me. Martian Lev and Drasta, agus Bianach Jagut, and to play us out, the Arran Pipe Band.